Welcome back to the paddock, everyone. It's me, your girl Lex. I know this is the first time you've seen me on camera because this is the first time the podcast has had a camera. I know, big upgrades. So proud. Love. You may be wondering why I'm doing this by myself today. Well, I have some news, and some of you may find this as a surprise, but due to scheduling issues that caused delays in recording and editing, I will be continuing this journey solo, and Lyss will be taking a step back. This was not the easiest decision to make as we started this journey together, but ultimately it's what's best for the brand of WTTP and the future of the podcast. So I do want to thank Lyss for all of her time and effort and the dedication she's put into the creation of content over the last year. I wouldn't be here without you, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. But don't worry, this is not the end. I will be bringing in guest hosts, and one of those guest hosts may or may not just be Lyss, so be on the lookout for that. I feel like because this is kind of like a new beginning for not just me, but for the podcast as a whole, I feel like I should reintroduce myself. Hi, everyone. I'm Lex. I'm a mechanical engineering student. I work a full-time job as an accountant. And I run this podcast, create content, train for a half marathon. Work-life balance is hard. That's all I have to say. My goal, career-wise, is to get an internship in IndyCar while I am still in school. Eventually work my way up. Hopefully move over to a European or Formula Series. And who knows, maybe even work in F1 Academy. The ultimate goal, though, still F1, but F1 Academy would be a great milestone for me. I want to do that. My favorite F1 driver on the current grid, you'd be surprised, I know I'm wearing Red Bull, is Lando Norris. Big shocker. My favorite IndyCar driver is Scotty Mack. I think this has to do with the fact that I work for Dex Imaging, and they sponsor Team Penske, which is the team that Scotty Mack drives for. So we have seen the Perner wagon from time to time this past season. And you know what? Nothing makes me more proud than seeing something I work very hard with shown on a sponsored car like that. I know we also have Harrison Burton with NASCAR, but Scotty Mack has my heart. Scotty Mack is also a dad now. Sweet, adorable baby. My favorite F1 Academy driver is Chloe Chambers. And that also kind of has to do with the fact that she's an American. I still love Leah Block, though. Don't worry. My favorite driver all time, I couldn't narrow it down to just one, so I give you two. Sebastian Vettel and Michael Schumacher. Enough said. There's nothing more I can say about that. My favorite team, I'm going to give you my top three. McLaren, who are currently fumbling strategy, but they have a quick car. So it pains me. It's painful. Red Bull, big surprise. Williams, gigantic surprise. And no, it's not because of Logan Sargent. I'm an Alex Albon fan. So the last few races, very painful. My favorite motorsport moment. I couldn't pick just one, so I picked a couple. I don't know if it was what got me into racing in general was going to IndyCar races with my dad here in Florida. attending my first F1 race in Vegas last year that we planned on a whim. There's nothing better than a good spontaneous girls' trip that you originally had no intention to go on, but then your manager said, do it. So you go. Or was it seeing Charles Leclerc break the Monaco curse this year? I cried. I'm pretty sure a lot of you cried. Tears. But there's so many great moments that culminate into my love of motorsport. And that's why my favorite moment of this current season of F1 was getting to see Lando win his first F1 race in person in Miami. Standing across from the podium in the GA area, and I could see him throw the trophy. I could see him smiling. I have so many pictures. I was crying. I felt like I was going to pass out. I didn't know whether or not to throw up. So many emotions. And with that, I feel like I've introduced myself a little bit. I feel like you know a little bit more about me. But don't worry, you'll get to know even more as we go on through this journey. It can be very extra sometimes, so don't worry. Some updates for the podcast. We'll be implementing new segments, getting rid of old ones. We are trying to revamp this and make this something that you are entertained by. So, I'm creating a new segment called Fast Lap Recap, which this will be on the next episode where we do a race recap. No one wants to sit around and listen to a podcast that goes on and on for 15, 20 minutes just giving you a race recap. So that's why I'm taking the fastest lap of that Grand Prix, and that's the amount of time I have to do a race recap. Get it done. We all watch the race. We all know what happens. Why are you going to listen to me talk about it for 15 minutes? Because you're not. You're going to turn it off. Stay tuned for some revamps in our latest section, the latest segment called Tier Talk. You know how we used to do random rankings? Well, it's got a name now. It's called Tier Talk. And this week, because the NHL has started back up, and I'm from Tampa, I grew up with hockey. We're going to put the current F1 grid, as well as a few extras, into a team. We're going to say who plays what position, and who doesn't necessarily make the team. But you know what? They put in the effort. So, let's go into it. All right, we're going to start with our first line. I feel like half of this is based off of vibes, and one of it is based off of being Canadian. Lance Stroll is our good old left winger. I think that has to do with the fact that he is Canadian, and most Canadians are born with a hockey stick in their hands. Lance Stroll is our left wing. And then Charles Leclerc at center. See, I feel like Charles would have the speed to be a center, and I feel like he could sort of see a play develop, but I feel like he wouldn't be able to score on a breakaway. So he's gonna stay at center, not move to the wing, and he's gonna develop the play. And then you have Lando Norris, which is kind of giving Nikita Kucherov vibes. If you're a fan of hockey or a Tampa Bay Lightning fan, you know who Cooch is. Cooch he knows he's the best. And he knows that he can be a team player. But sometimes he also wants to be greedy and he wants to make the decisions for himself instead of for the team. So Lando's our right wing. Our first D pair, our starters, need no explanation. You've got the Mexican Minister of Defense and Mr. K-Mag himself, the accumulator of so many penalty points from defending. I mean, I feel like nothing is getting past the two of them together. It's crazy. And then our starting goaltender. I say this all the time. Andrei Vasilevsky, the starting goalie for the Tampa Bay Lightning, has crazy eyes. You know who also has crazy eyes? Max Verstappen. Max ain't letting anything in. Max is just going to stare you down until you turn around and go to the other end of the ice. And those are our starting six. Moving on to our second line. I based this one not on vibes, not on talent, but on height. I give you the tallest line in the F1 hockey team. Their average height is over 6 foot. We've got Esty Bestie on left wing. We've got Alex Albon in center. And then we've got George, good old George Russell on right wing. I feel like you couldn't split George and Alex up because I feel like they would cry if they were on different lines. So, they're together. Our second D pair. You may be looking at me like, Lex, you're crazy. Why did you put these two together? And the only thing I have to say to that is that they will probably hate the opponent and the possibility of someone scoring against them more than each other. They will put their shared anger and aggression towards each other to good use. I give you Carlos and Oscar. And then our backup goaltender. The only other one who I know for a fact loves hockey. Valtteri Bottas. He's going to use the power of the mullet to repel all pucks out of the net. And now, I don't know if I went based off of vibes or just like, this is how I feel for this third line. But this is what we got. You couldn't split up Pierre and Yuki. They're together. Again, I feel like Yuki would cry if Pierre was too far away from him. And then you're wondering, why is Logan there? Because Logan is a Florida hockey boy. He may support the other Florida team and not the correct one, but that doesn't mean I don't like him any less. Do I think it was probably the right decision for them to drop him at Williams? Yes! Doesn't mean I love him any less. And with that, I wish Logan the best in whatever future opportunity he gets in motorsport. So, and then this D pair, I don't know. I think this was like, oh, this is who you have left. So they're your third D pair, and they're the ones you don't use that often. Good old Danny Rick and Nico Hulkenberg. I feel like this is kind of like the participation trophy where they're like, our first and second line guys are tired. Do you guys go in? Give them a quick break, and then you can come back and ride the bench. That's what this D pair is giving me. I don't know if Nico can skate, and I've seen one video of Danny skating. And I feel like Danny's kind of going to be like the enforcer of the team. Danny's going to say, oh, you don't touch Max. I come after you. Cross check. That's just how I feel. And then our fourth line. You're like, who's left? I give you Our line of chaos are rookies. Ollie's at center because he has the height, and I feel like his legs are less coordinated, and he's not as fast as Liam and Franco, where he can pass the puck up to his wingers, and they will have the speed to take the puck and put it in the back of the net. I feel like this line is just chaos. I stare at these rookies and I'm like, you're going to get like 4 minutes of ice time. We are barely going to use you. But that's not my decision to make. That's our head coach, Fernando Alonso. Oh, and our assistant coach, Lewis Hamilton. I feel like these two are afraid to lace up the skates. And they'd rather stick to driving the car. You know what? They may even hop in and drive the Zamboni to resurface the ice. I feel like they'd have more fun with that than actually playing. Who did I miss? I think there's one I missed. Oh yeah, our equipment manager, Zhou Guanyu. I'm sorry, Zhou, you were the first one cut. I think this has to do with the fact that I don't think you have the full coordination to play hockey. So you're going to use the speed you do have to help hand out sticks to the guys on the ice when they break theirs. To replace skate blades in a flash like that. I'm sorry. I didn't know where to put him, and this felt like the only thing. Because I wasn't going to put him on like a hype squad. Because I don't know how much hyping Joe's going to do unless it's for sweet corn. So, equipment manager. But no team is complete without their very own hype squad. So, in lightning terms, I give you the blue crew of Fred Vasseur. Fred knows how to party. Fred knows how to hype up a crowd. Fred is going to be standing on the rails waving that team flag like no one's business. Oh, give him a t-shirt cannon. Oh, perfect. He's gonna ride that Fan Zam. He's gonna pick game contestants to play in the intermission games. He's gonna do the trivia. He's gonna know anything and everything about this team. And he's gonna be the first one to party when they win. And with that, let's close out Tier Talk. Well, now that the fun and games are all over, let's get back to the heart of the podcast. And I'm going to leave you with one kind of somber, kind of heartwarming, thoughtful segment of me saying goodbye to Daniel Ricciardo. Red Bull always has this thing where nothing is complete without a mid-season driver swap. We saw it with Alex Albon. We saw it with Pierre Gasly. We saw it with Nick DeVries. We saw it with Danny. We saw it with Liam replacing Danny when Danny was out for surgery. We saw Danny coming back. And then ultimately Liam replacing Danny once again, but this time permanently. Red Bull, can you get your shit together for once and just keep a pairing together for an entire season, or at least drop them when the timing is right and give them a proper send-off? Because we didn't get a proper send-off for Danny, and I am upset about it. I think we all knew going into the Singapore GP weekend that it was going to be Danny's last race. We didn't want to accept it. Let's be real. Danny's the reason why a lot of us are here. Danny was like the face of Drive to Survive, which brought in a whole new demographic of F1 fans. Danny was kind of like the heart and soul and the human element behind Formula One. So having to say goodbye to him for a second time was painful. The first time hurt. The second time, I feel like it was one of those things where maybe he should have just left it after McLaren. Like, you gave us a lot more joy seeing you come back, but not being able to see you fully succeed and seeing what you're fully capable of was, I think, something that made this second departure a lot harder. Because we knew what your goal was, Danny. We knew what he was trying to do. He was trying to get back into that second seat at Red Bull to prove that he deserved a spot. And it just never happened. Singapore, I think, is going to have a special place in my heart just because it meant a lot to see Danny get send-offs from the TV broadcast staff. So, like Sky Sports, they did a tribute to him. Ted gave him a send-off. But it didn't feel like the teams and the other drivers really knew what was happening. So they didn't know whether or not to fully say goodbye yet. But you know who I would be willing to say goodbye to? Checo. Red Bull is known for dropping their drivers mid-season. I get it. Checo brings in a lot of money. And again, sports nowadays, including F1, are based off of money. I get it. But when you have a driver like Max, I feel like you need someone additional in that second seat who's going to pull his own weight. Checo hasn't done that in a long time. Like, Checo kind of dropped off the map after the first, 3 or 4 races of the season? Checo, where'd you go? Do I think he deserves to leave F1 and like lose his seat for good? No. Do I think he's still a halfway decent driver? Absolutely. Do I think he deserves one of the most coveted seats in F1? No. Do I have a potential replacement for him? You know what? Put Liam in that second Red Bull seat. Piss off Yuki. Yuki will turn into more of a gremlin than he already is, and VCarb will be on the podium. I'm gonna leave you with the Ted Kravitz, Ted's Notebook, Goodbye of Danny that I made a TikTok to doing a shoey.
Thank you for that smile. Thank you for the shoeies. Thanks for I Never Left. Thanks for that gorgeous nose of his. Thanks for coming into the paddock on that horse in Austin. Thanks for the Enchante merch. Thanks for the red wine. Thanks for those cowboy boots that he wears sometimes. Thanks for licking the stamp and sending it. Thank you for being honest. Thank you for being a gentleman. And thank you for being a proper great Aussie drongo bloke. Daniel Ricciardo, we love you. If this is it, thank you so much.
Enjoy the butterflies, Danny. Truly enjoy the butterflies. There are big things coming in the future for this podcast from new content. I will be making YouTube videos. I will be making merch. There's a lot to come. So be sure to follow on TikTok and Instagram, listen on Spotify, watch on YouTube. I'm currently working on getting onto other platforms such as Apple and Amazon. So stay tuned for that. And I know that when Lyss and I had talked about this in the past, we had been planning on attending the Las Vegas Grand Prix. And that is no longer on the books unless I magically win tickets or am given tickets. F1 Las Vegas. Help a girl out. Please. I loved Vegas so much last year and I would love to go back. But my friend and I decided that we wanted to switch things up and attend our first international race. So instead of Vegas, I will be going to Abu Dhabi with someone who is very near and dear to me and someone that you're going to see in the future as well. Maybe even the next episode. Who knows? But fingers crossed I can somehow end up in Las Vegas. No promises on that whatsoever. But I love you all. And with that, it's lights out and away we go. Thank you for tuning in, watching, listening, however you're getting this lovely podcast. I do want to thank everyone. But I cried a lot having to say goodbye to Danny. I cried at the fact that there was probably a Coda special helmet because Coda was Danny's favorite race. And I also cried at the fact that Liam was getting treated so poorly by F1 fans because of how he got his seat. He had nothing to do with Danny being dropped. That was not Liam's decision. Don't put that pressure on Liam. Liam was brought in from the team to make them better. Simple as that.